they're gonna be deploying the Marines over there, like 700, I
Right.
think you said.
Yep,
Sure.
700.
Yep, yep. So you got that to also look forward to, and it's interesting because out there in LA, over the years, we've always seen a lot of these transportations of Humvees and all these different things, especially in the San Diego area, right? You got the San Bernardino area and stuff like that. So these are all highly densely populated, Jake populated areas like Northern Kingdom and stuff like that, right? And you know you're seeing all these things playing out, but also remember this, that though you have the Heavenly Father playing a key role, as is written in Second Ezra, the uproars of the people, you also got to understand that the secular side of it, there's somebody behind all these things, right? A lot of these things that's happening as you watch the videos, you could tell that it's a lot of agent provocateurs that are in there sparking a lot of this uprisings. All right, this is all part of biblical prophecy that we're going into. All right, the sedition among men, the uproars of the people. Okay, them not regarding their kings nor princes. This is all Second Ezra's coming to life. All right, and it's the beginning stages, so we know what's to come after when this thing really, really gets hot. All right. So yeah, man, a lot to expect. All right, you got it, bros.
Hey, Khan, I just wanted to add, too, throughout the years, they've had, run simulations, right? I remember a few years ago, I want to say it had to be at least, I want to say it might have been like 2017 or 16, where they had, the whole simulation that was run in Los Angeles, where they had like the Apache helicopters going through the streets. Um, they had the whole J and Hell 15 thing that was back in 2015. So what, about 10 years ago from now. So these things they've already had already ran right tests on how these things will operate, how this will go down. And I remember during Trump's first presidency, he had made mention of potentially sending troops to Chicago because of the whole shooting that was happening, Chirac and all that. But then also with the whole George Floyd thing popping off, those riots, he had requested, to basically send troops, militarized troops, to quell those protests over there in Minneapolis. But the governors and like people of his cabinet at that time basically, wasn't with it. So now this time when he came in, this is why you see he had like such a sweeping um, revamping of the cabinet, right? And he chose people that weren't necessarily politically ingrained or had experience, but people that basically were just a bunch of yes men in his cabinet. So now, whenever he wants to do something, these guys, Hexlaff, I've got his first name Peter. I think his first name is Peter Hexlaff, Hexliff, whatever his last name is. These guys are just full on with it, right? Naomi bitch, she down with it. So he has because I was watching an interview and they had asked him, when do you think? I forgot exactly what they asked him, but they was like basically like, what would be the standard of sending in troops? And he says, well, whatever standard I think it is, something to that effect. So this is why just in 3 or 4 days he's already sending Marines down there, right? He sent National Guard, he sent the Marines. He said that they're going to completely take over the streets, so we're going to see exactly how bad this gets, but we already know through the spirit that this is all prophesied. You got it.
Hey, real quick before I pass it, remember the border czar, Tom Homan, I think that's his name, right? Before Trump came in, he was on some like, hey, we gonna come in, we gonna clear the streets, we gonna be doing what we gotta do because the border is a mess. And we were saying that, yo, listen to the tone. There's a reason why Trump will pick this guy to be part of, like, to be in charge of this type of operation. That's what it is. It's a military operation. And a military operation consists of offensive and defensive strategies. Okay. How are we going to galvanize our troops in order to apply whatever it is that we need to apply in order to come out with the desired outcome? So in his case, oh, okay, well, we're going to have to use the military. Trump said that before he came in. He said, I will use the military to make sure that the streets are back in order again. And now you have this. He was already planning to bring the military in. They just needed to know, they just had to bring a reason that will be okay when, so that people don't really revolt against that. And this is the perfect scenario, right? The way the media is depicting it, and you have the Democrats, you got Gavin Newsom, you got Karen Bass, all of them, even Maxine Waters, all right, all pushing that left-right paradigm again, where Trump is saying one thing the Democrat states are also saying another thing, and it starts with Cali. Don't be surprised when it hits New York and Jersey and all these different, mostly Democratic states, because their whole mindset is we're gonna push against Trump to cause that clash, that Isaiah 19 clash. Okay, so you're starting to see that rhetoric being pushed, like, oh, this is protest, this is peaceful protest. Meanwhile, they're throwing rocks at cars and all these different things, and it's all being done by design. Why are these troop cars driving through here, making sure that they get hit, so it could be seen on camera, so people at home could be like, "Oh my god, oh my god." That's they need that reaction. Okay, auto app chaos. So the chaos is what we're seeing now. And I actually watched Elder Apostle Gabar's lesson he did. I believe this was on Sunday, and he was going into how this whole thing picked up on Friday, which was June 6th, 2025. Yeah, June 6th, 2025. When you actually go into the numerologies, all right, I think he went into gematria, if I'm not mistaken, right? And it goes into what? It breaks it down to what? 666, right? And I said, of course, they'll start some shit like that on 666. Now I'm not even surprised if June 6th, 2026, next year, it's June. Here's the microchip. You know what I'm saying? 666. That would be a perfect way to go out. But who knows, right? Who knows? But we're going based on what we're seeing now and what the scriptures say about what we're seeing now. All right. But you got it, bro.
Okay, I got a quick precept, which you actually mentioned, with all these things that are going on. And, as the scriptures say, how I said, that we have to watch, right? We have to watch as well as pray. And, this isn't the first time that they've had riots, right? The term LA riots is already, known in itself, right? Because historically you had what was known as the LA riots. But there's also something to always keep in mind, which is what's different about, each time this happens, right? When you go back to, I think it was 2020 or 2021 with the George Floyd protest, Trump was in office, right? And we thought he was going to use the Insurrection Act. However, he didn't really, enact that in its fullest. It's still there, right? And that was his first term. But a couple of things are different now. Right now, it's his second term, right? His next term. And the cause for which those riots were going on is slightly different, right? Because back then, this was basically people who were like angry in terms of like a racial matter, right? They were like, oh, this guy was put to death wrongfully. And it's the people coming against the government, that kind of thing. This time, you're dealing with a divide that it's sort of like a house divided against itself. Now it's not just people, but it's one side of the ruling class or the politicians or the government of America versus another. Right now, you're not just dealing with people taken to the streets. You're dealing with states, right, and governors and mayors that are now coming against the federal authority. So it's not like, hey, our people are wilding over here. Can you send us federal troops to help quell them? It's more like we are down with this, right? And you had Gavin Newsom basically say, oh, Trump should, along the lines of he dares Trump to arrest them for aiding and embedding with the illegal immigrants and so on and so forth. And Trump said he would happily do that, right? So you're at the point where he's basically backing up the things that he has said when he was running for that campaign. And like Haran was saying, this is a good tactic they're using, right? They're using this to basically provoke him, right? And paint that image that this guy is the kind of guy who will enact martial law, right? He's the kind of guy who will say, we'll do whatever we have to do to get it done, right? And so now you have basically states that are like, all right, well, F whatever you're saying, we're going to go against it. What are you actually going to do about it? And now if he sends those Marines in there and he's like, well, we'll keep them in here as long as it's needed and give them whatever authority they need to instill order, then we'll do that. But will that be the end of it if he does that? What if other states like New York and other states are like, oh, you know what? Now we're also going to revolt. Is he going to send Marines over there as well? These are the kind of games that they're playing, like the Zaquan mentioned with those simulations. Now, this is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 1. And it reads, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud and shall come into Egypt. Now, in Isaiah 19, this Egypt isn't dealing with the ancient Egypt, right? It's worded as Egypt, but it's just dealing more prophetically with America. As it says here, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it, right? We know this didn't happen with ancient Egypt per se, right? Like as it is worded in here. But the main point here in verse 2, the Lord says, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, right? And that's what we're seeing now on different levels, right? It's on a racial level, it's on a political level, it's on a civil divide level, it's on many different levels, right? But you have Americans against Americans, which is the Lord's doing. It says here, and they shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And today you call them different states and even different cities. And now you have state versus federal, right? It says, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord of hosts, right? Which now we believe is dealing with Trump. And the Lord has given, right, these Americans into his hand. And so he's going to play the role that the Lord has put him there to play, right? That spirit of like those ancient Caesars coming back. He's going to play that role. It's just a matter of time for the Lord to say, okay, give the go ahead or give the green light. And all it takes is just one catalyst, right? Let a freaking Mexican cartel gang jump up in there and shoot a officer or something like that. Let just at least some shots get fired from one side or the other, and let it escalate a little bit. That's when you're going to start to see that like martial law, because now you're creating a martial like state, and now you need a martial like law to bring order to that. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Khan, and it's actually spiritual, right? Because we understand this chapter to be prophetic, but even when you go historically as well, that during this time you had the Southern Kingdom, right, wanting to be in an alliance with Egypt against the Assyrians. So this was basically like a warning unto the Southern Kingdom about what happens, what would happen if you align yourself or make an alliance with Egypt. That Egypt isn't going to be something that or a place that you're going to see, safe haven in, or find a place of rest in. And when you go into, what happened with Trump being elected, you had an historical amount of particularly northern kingdoms, right? So-called Latinos, Native Americans that voted for Trump. Okay, I'll never forget. I posted like periodically on my social media that a video of that Spanish like concert, but it was like, I will vote for Donald Trump. So it's some coonish shit, bro. I'm gonna try to see if I can find it, but it's some coonish shit, and that's like our people, pledging an alliance with Egypt, right? And thinking that, okay, well, Trump is going to make our lives better. And it's interesting because there was a lot of so-called legal northern tribes that were basically for Trump being in office. And now, when you're seeing the persecution that is happening, now those same people that voted for Trump, they're now coming back, whether it's like Congress people or people that are high up, whatever, they're now saying like, oh, I didn't think it was going to be like this. Like they're basically regretting their decision, right? But the scriptures tells you in the book of Isaiah, the 30th chapter, Isaiah chapter 30, we start at the top. It says, woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me. Why? Because during this time, right, with this whole Trump, you have a lot of people that never voted, right, that decided to vote this election because they were seeing and that was all by design, right? The whole Democratic Party falling apart, Biden dropping out, and then them pushing Kamala in, and she just being a cackling, demon, not knowing nothing. And it just looked as though that like the so-called left was so broken that it was like you had people that voted Democrat their whole lives was like, you know what, we gotta vote for the right because at least there's more stability there. At least they're not going, off the deep end with these agendas, the TG agendas and all this other crap. So it was all purposely done. So that's why when Trump came into office, he constantly was speaking about how many people voted for him, how popular he was in the vote. right? How even the so-called Black and Latinos, voted for him so much that, historically. But the counsel during that time was still being put out of Yahweh Shem Shai, right? It was still, you still had the men of the Lord telling our people, don't fall for this trap, right? Don't fall into this left-right paradigm that what we are for Yahweh Shem Shai. So it says that it says Salaki, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. Because a lot of our people, reason why they voted for Trump, because they wanted stability back in Babylon, right? They wanted, taxes lower. They wanted inflation lower. They wanted to have that comfortability of being in Egypt, right? Modern day Egypt, right? And having those victuals readily available to them and being able to partake in the quote unquote American life, which is nothing but wickedness and sin. And they wanted to do that comfortably. So they wanted to add sin onto sin. It says that go down, Salakia, that walk to go down into Egypt and have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. So the same thing that you thought was going to be your strength, right? The same thing that you thought was going to be your protection is going to be turned into your shame and your confusion. And this is what you're seeing happening right now. Okay. And I was watching one of these truthers, and they were basically saying how this is really just the beginning of, how it's going to explode, right? This is like the first so-called protest during 2020 with George Floyd. But you see how crazy it is with just the first one, right? And how much it escalated within the first 72 hours. So if it's starting like this, what happens when it gets into what they call the summer of love? When shit starts to just get more and more hectic and more, it's only going to intensify and build, So yeah, that's it on that. You got it.
I got a precept. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 34. Think not that I am come to send peace on the earth. I am come not to send peace, but a sword. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foe shall be they of his own household, right? And he that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. So, adding on to the point, how people are looking forward to Egypt, right? The scripture talks about the dark times are inevitable, but there is a manner in which you should maneuver through these dark times. And you have people out here that are looking forward to voting to Esau, thinking that he's going to make things all right, when we just find out that he's doing things that does not work for that's not in their best interest. So this is the how you maneuver, right? The scripture talks about you looking upon Yahweh Bashim Yashai. The service that we do for him is the most important thing, because the things have gotten so bad that enchantment and bread and circuses ain't working no more. People are feeling the effect of life. They can't simply drown out their worries with the sports and music and all that shit. They feel life ripping apart all around them, and that's because like we keep the point is being made, it's all the Lord's doing, right? Because he has to agitate people so that the fear of the Lord, right, can begin to be felt, and then so that what the things that we've been preaching onto you will be made manifest, and so that the Lord would also be magnified, so this is inevitable, and people are going to feel it. And if we, like Zaquan said, if we're feeling this in just the beginning, that means things are just going to keep getting worse and worse and escalating, and then we're going to see more and more blood.
Hey, Khan, I got a quick precept in 2nd Ezra 9. It says, verse 1, it says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. So going back to the point the brother was saying, that is only going to intensify. And as the Quran said, mentioned earlier, right? So this is the beginning stages. That's why the Lord says, measure the times diligently. Go back to the scriptures and read and see, oh, the things that was prophesied years ago are actually happening now. And in the beginning, Bukhari was saying how, it's been getting hot, right? It's been getting hot. It's been getting hot. But now, just like everything else, it gets to a boiling point, right? First, when you put something on fire and you turn the heat on, it starts to, the water starts, you start seeing those small little bubbles, and then you start seeing the vapor come out, and then eventually you start seeing it boiling. And if you don't take care of it or take the water off or turn off the fire, what happens is it boils over, and it boils and boils and boils until there's no more water in the pan. You see what I'm saying? It burns all the way out. And if you're not careful, the whole entire thing will burn out and catch on fire if you're not careful, right? So there's levels to this boiling point thing, right? And what we're seeing now is the beginning stages of something that's going to turn very, very, very ugly according to prophecy. It says a time like never before. And you have Trump, hey, shalom, bro. You have Trump teaming up with a lot of these so-called technocrats, all right, which is something that was unforeseen. And that's why the Constitution was created in the first place, to avoid the situation that America is in right now. All right. And now you're about to start seeing them flex their muscle when it comes to their military might and so on and so forth. And for years, we've been going into videos and showing you the technological power and prowess that they have that they can always use against the people. Right. They just need to find a way to go around the Constitution, like things like you cannot use the military to enforce law enforcement or to partake in law enforcement duties on American soil. Right. But now you're seeing that happening, where they're saying, well, the only way we can do this is by having martial law. Okay, martial law, you're going to have the actual military in the streets with Humvees and robot dogs and drones and all kinds of different things, all in the name of dispersing the chaos and bringing peace. Okay, but that's just an illusion for them to bring in their technocratic advancements. Like Palantir has been tapped by Trump to be in charge of surveillance and all these different things. Trump comes out and says, if you're protesting, you can't wear a mask. What does that mean, right? So in other words, they want to be able to see your face. The AI is going to be capturing your faces and so on and so forth. All right, but let's continue in 2nd Ezra 9. It says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, and that's what we're seeing now. But we were seeing it in different countries for years. But we always said it's not until it hits Babylon that things are going to pick up. And right now we're seeing those things picking up. Okay, it didn't happen on June 6th by coincidence. All right, it didn't happen by coincidence. Plus, I think the end of May into June, you had the WHO and their pandemic accord treaty taking effect, right? So you have that to look forward to. You got the CBDC that they've been talking about. They said by August they want to have it established out in Europe, and if it's in Europe, it's going to also take effect here in America because Europe also deals with the American dollar. So if they're switching everything over to CBDC, what do you think is going to be happening here in America? Right? And then, of course, you got this whole Trump versus Elon Musk beef to fuel the fire of that division. Okay? So everything that you're seeing now is just the tip of the iceberg. And I'm telling you, they cannot wait to start flexing their muscles on the people, man. All right, the DHS, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, even the post office. All right, the post office general, all these different agencies have ammo. I mean, billions of rounds of ammo that they cannot wait to start unleashing on the people. And they can't wait, just like Netanyahu, how he's just like continuously beating down the people in Gaza and all that. Like every single day is like, we need to destroy Hamas. Hamas is the problem. That's the spirit they're going to have here in America. They're going to be coming after the illegals, the immigrants, the domestic T's. They'll bunch it all together. It's called Rex 84. Look into that, right? It says here, continue, it says, verse 4, it says, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning, right? The Lord said he declared the end from the beginning, right? So all these things that we're seeing, we getting excited because it's been what we've been waiting for. All right, we've been waiting for this. We've been waiting for this. And it seemed like things got quiet for a while, but things were moving in the background. And we were paying attention to the things that are happening in the background because we knew eventually it's all going to come to the forefront. All right. Trump is not signing executive orders for nothing. Biden didn't sign executive orders for nothing. Trump in his first term didn't sign executive orders for nothing. Obama didn't sign executive orders for nothing. Bush didn't sign executive orders for nothing. Clinton didn't sign executive orders for nothing. You get the point? that each and every administration signed executive orders for this very time. All right. And remember, we're still in a national emergency going all the way back to the damn Civil War in the 1800s, bro. All right. During the time of Lincoln. All right. They never lifted that shit. It's still there till today. So it doesn't take much for anyone to see that, yeah, this is all going to lead to martial law. And at that point, it's over. We ain't no, oh, the Constitution says this, bro. They coming for everyone, man. And it's about to be a wrap. All right. And we can't wait for that. The Lord said he's going to protect us. But for the rest of the world, he said he's going to leave you in there so you can taste of that punishment, man, that ass whooping, that beat down. All right. So that's what's coming. Let me finish off with this. It says here, verse 5, it says, for like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. So that this is all part of the signs of the end, right? For this place and for the system that we're living in altogether. It says, even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings in wonder and powerful works, and endings in effects and signs. All right. So again, this is all part of the signs, and very soon you're going to see the effects of those signs. As it's written, it says what the effect of every vision. Okay. And it doesn't come with happiness and joy and beer drinking and celebration. It comes with bloodshed, all right, death, destruction. Okay. That's all part of what's about to unfold here in America and around the world. And it's going to be crazy. All right. You got it, bros.
That's the
Okay.
that's the thou shalt know what we call a virgin or tender and delicate, like you were saying, how the things that are going on in the world, because that's what Babylonians are so used to seeing bad things across the ocean. They're so used to seeing that on someone else's country. And so when it happens, it's really going to like tear the whole world apart, you know, because the things that are going to happen in here, this is something that people go through all the time, and they still live their life and they're strong. And that's why the scriptures also talk about people ain't going to be pitying America. I mean, the only kind of pity that they pity America would be greed. Ah, man, I used to make money off that place. Ah, man, it's destroyed. But no one's really going to care about America and say, oh, man, I wish this place was still up there because I care for it deep down, because they will never, they will have no sort of pity for them, like no empathy, partly because America is also the architect of their suffering. And so you're going to have all these nations out there that before they even, shoot their missiles on Babylonian soil, they're actually going to be glad. They're going to be happy about the things that are going on in Babylon. You ain't going to have, foreign nations coming in to America bringing aid. That's ain't going. That's not what's going to happen in here. You know, so she's going to be. That's what Scripture says. What, uncover thy locks and sit in the dust and grind meal, right? Grind the millstone. She's going to be doing the work like the servant women. She's going to be out here like any other woman in the street. She ain't going to be like this top, kingdom anymore, and that's what part of why her pride is going to be taken away from her, because she can never say America's the greatest. She can never say, oh, America is not corrupt. She can never say, America's a free country, because they're going to be living in a society where citizens ain't free. Like you're not free now, but you actually going to know you're not free, because you're going to be in them concentration camps. Because when the martial law troops comes in, you're going to know when you can't even step out your crib, because for the longest we tell people, yo, you ain't free, but they don't listen because Esau likes to play the long game. But when he starts doing what he got to do, that's when people are going to see, they're going to know why we call him the devil, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And to your point, actually, as a quick precept, Jeremiah 50:23, right? It reads, how is a hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? And like you mentioned, Babylon being the architect of these nations' sufferings, it's basically like the supervillain, right, of the world. So nobody really feels bad for the villain. It's more so like, finally you're getting what has been a long time, waiting to come upon you, right? Now, I did want to mention too, I forgot who made the point, but I think it might have been Zaquan, that Trump told the world exactly what he was going to do before he got into office. He ran his campaign telling people what he was going to do. But I think the fact that a lot of people still voted for him shows something very, very important, right, about the minds of the people, they're pretty much playing your mind like Batman, right? From one side to the other, one side to the other. Now ask yourself, you as say you are in the target demographic, right, of those who are being targeted now, and you end up voting for somebody who says blatantly that I'm going to be I'm be setting up a deportation campaign to take your kind of people out the country, and yet you still voted for him. Now you need to ask yourself, why would somebody knowing that go ahead and vote for Trump? And then you look at what the situation was like at the time when people went to vote. Things were so bad, right, that people were like, we'll go with the lesser of two evils. It was like, it's so bad that we would rather bear that, whatever this guy is saying, than to put Camel to Harris over there in office, because it's like a whole mess, right? And that was Biden's job. His job, what people didn't see, was he was literally rolling out the red carpet for the one who would come after him, which was Trump. And that's why they set it up from when he came in. It didn't take long before his joint started to decline very quick. And over those 4 years, it went down, 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 down. Now ask yourself, why is it that it was under Biden's reign that you had this whole border situation, border crisis? It's literally the perfect opening for Trump to come in, right? So he really rolled that carpet out for them, but that's because they conditioned the minds of the people. And it's the same thing during the whole Demic situation. These people told you lies. Then they came out afterwards and admitted to it and said, yeah, we knew that really wasn't backed by any solid proof, but we said it anyway. And people were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that. And then a couple months later, they went right back to believing the same people who lied to you and then told you that they lied to you. That is how much control they have over the minds of the people. And it's via a tactic called silent weapons, or for quiet wars. I think that's what it is, or vice versa, where it tells you that they don't shoot bullets, they shoot like situations, right? Their gunpowder is information and simulations. And because it's not a physical gun, people are getting hit, but they don't know what's hitting them. So they feel like something is wrong in the world, but they can't put their finger on it. And as time goes on, they go along with it. As things get bad, they get worse. So if things get bad and your mind gets just as bad with it, nothing is really getting bad for you, right? But the Lord has it to where we're able to see the world for what it is. So we see it getting worse. But because these people are getting worse with it, they don't see what's actually happening. Now, real quick, I want to get this precept, because now we're seeing what's leading us into, yes, this is it. Silent weapons for quiet wars. Yep, the phrase silent weapons for quiet wars refers to a document that outlines a plan for, there you go, that's what it is. Social engineering and control using subtle tactics and strategies. It's often associated with CTs. Yeah, they had to throw that in there. Yep, that's the one right there. So silent weapons, these are not traditional weapons like guns or bombs, but rather tools of manipulation like economic control, psychological warfare, and the manipulation of information. And then the quiet wars, this suggests a covert, ongoing conflict where control is achieved through subtle, unseen means rather than overt violence. And that's literally the world we live in today. That's why this beast was known as that old serpent, right? Which was more subtle than the beast of the field. Now, this is 2nd Ezra chapter 15,
So,
verse
okay,
1.
just to add to that last part you just said, and that's why it also goes into the second beast having two horns like a lamb, but spake as a dragon, right? The first beast wasn't described, having that. Although the second beast exercised all of the power of the first beast, it looked more appealing to the people, right? Because that word lamb, I believe, goes into I think it's the word lamb. It goes into like a savior, right, or a Messiah. And Trump, when he came in, what he kept saying, "I'm the chosen one." I will, they had the whole theatrics of him, having a assassination attempt twice, and all of that actually played into the manipulation of the minds of the people, because now people really thought that he's actually for the people, and the so-called deep state wants to try to take him out, but he survived it. And now he's using that whole rhetoric of surviving that as, oh, God saved me so I can save, the nation. So a lot of people are playing into that. Then you have the whole shit with the immigrants and then showing them, just causing chaos and havoc and, being unruly and unlawful. all of that played into this manipulation to have people now look at, so even when you had northern tribes even looking at other northern tribes as being like the problem, like, oh no, we need to get you guys out of here, you guys are not like us. So you just had literally just a conglomerate of confusion amongst Babylonians fighting one another, you know. And I know you had something you want to finish, so I'll stop right there for now.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. It's just I'll start with this one verse in Second Ezra 15, just backing onto the point that you just made, right? This is all leading into the vision that Ezra saw, right? And as we always say, the visions that were written, it makes sense, right? The Most High, why would the Most High show in the visions just the cause, right? And it just leave out the actual effect of what actually happens. That what benefit would that be to us, right? We would see what they saw, and then we would all be like, "Oh shit, now what?" You know. So the Most High gave them what the end goal was going to be, right? This is what they do. This is what they do. This is what I saw them doing. Just like in a movie trailer, they show you like the mist of it, of what's happening in the movie trailer. You have to watch the movie to see how you get there, right? And that's what we're going through now. So this is Second Ezra 15:1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true, right? And that's what basically we have now. Now, I wanted to mention that part. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I just want to jump down to one of these verses here. I was speaking to Haran about it earlier today, because we're also seeing what's the Second Ezra 15 and 16. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Now, sedition is not to be confused with insurrection, right? Sedition is not the actual overthrowing of the authority. Sedition is the speech that incites that insurrection. And that's what we're seeing now. I saw a video of it. You had a woman, I forgot who she was, but she was doing a press conference, and she was basically telling the people, right, the side of the immigrants who are being deported and those supporting them, saying that, hey, these people are coming with like rubber bullets, and they're coming with National Guard troops, so they basically don't support us. We got to come back just as hard, right? We also got to take to the streets. We also got to like not back down as they basically turn things up even more. And I did a lesson on this last year that was Maxine Waiters or Waters, whatever her name is, the whore that said it upon many waters, whatever her name is. She basically was like pushing for that. They said like, we're gonna organize violence when Trump comes in office, so that we're not gonna be allowing him to get what he wants. Basically, that's prophecy, right? As the Zaquan pulled the definition for sedition, you can see it right there, right? So that's what we're seeing now, along with the other prophecies. And you notice they're all in that same chapter, right? So Ezra saw sedition, but he also saw uprisings. That's it on that.
I just Salakia, I got you. All right. I just wanted to add, and it's interesting because as you mentioned about the we're seeing the effects, right? The prophecies are the effects. And what people don't realize what the cause is or what the reason is, when you read, I believe it's in verse 4 of that same chapter, it speaks about what the wickedness has greatly polluted the earth. So this is what people don't realize, why these things are happening is because of how the earth, and particularly here in Babylon the Great, is saturated with wickedness, right? And they don't think that there's a consequence for the wickedness that has been going and has been, greatly polluting the earth, right? It has been just constantly happening. And when you have the prophets, the whole duty of the prophets, Isaiah 58:1, is to what? Cry loud, spare not, show Israel their transgressions, all right, and show Jacob their transgression, house of Israel their sins. But see, they don't want to see the problem, right? They want the effects to go away, right? But they don't want to deal with the root of the cause, which is the wickedness. So they still want to be wicked, but not have to deal with any of the problems that comes with the wickedness. But that's why the scripture says in the book of Sirach, the 40th chapter, and I'll give it to you, Haran. So let me pull it up. Sirach chapter, I think it might be 40. Yeah. 40 verse, Sirach chapter 40, verse 9. It says, death, bloodshed,
strife and sword, calamities, famine, tribulation, and the scourge. These things are created for the wicked, and for their sakes came the flood. So the things that are happening on the earth, right, which is all of these plagues. I believe in the same chapter, Second Ezra, it talks about the plagues, right? The sword, famine, death, and destruction, right? These things are being sent by Yahweh Bashim Hawashai. And that's what people are not realizing, that this isn't just a series of events that, just randomly happen. These are all orchestrated by Yahweh Bashim Hawashai, which was already foreordained from the beginning. Just like how when the flood came, it wasn't just some natural, disaster. It was an actual calamity or actual wrath that the Heavenly Father brought upon the earth during that time because of what? The violence and the corruption and the evils that was being done. So it's the same thing happening now, but this time the Lord has a succession of plagues, right? That's going to hit before that final judgment comes, which is that second death. But you got it.
Yeah, Khan. Yeah, that's beautiful. Shit. Yeah, I was gonna add on to the point the brother was making about sedition, right? And you pulled up the definition of it in the online etymology dictionary. It actually gives you the actual like it everything Ezra was saying is actually written in here. It says sedition, it says rebellion, uprising, revolt, factitious commotion in the state. Right, we're looking at the state of California right now. Right, it says concerted attempt to overthrow civil authority. All right, so this is what Ezra saw, and he didn't just see it here in just America. He saw it all around the world because one thing that is understood when you read the prophecies is, especially in the book of Job, the 20th chapter, is that there comes a point in time where the people in the world actually start to put the pieces together because it's so obvious and so blatant. And yeah, their governments are telling them that these things that we're going to go through, yeah, it's going to be painful, you're going to suffer, but for the long term, for the long run, it's going to make everything great again. Like, we're going to fix all this, all these health problems we're going to fix, monetary problems we're going to fix. Like, hey, you might not even have to work 40 hours to make an income anymore. Like, all these things. But as the processes of the promises are playing out, people are like, hold on, man, this ain't working for us, bro. You got people who are like, yeah, they're sending a lot of money overseas, but what about us in here? We're not getting anything. Oh, why are you guys sending this much money and setting up a AI system that the states can't even veto or anything like that? Like, what's going on? And that's, people don't even know that, that's setting up that MOTB system because it says he calls us all, both small and great, rich and poor, to receive that MOTB. So you're being set up in a state where you can't even push against it. That's why the one big beautiful bill has been put there. So for the next 10 years, you're not going to be able to push back against anything that AI is going to mandate, which is going to include Vanessa's, it's going to include the MOTB, all these different things we've been talking about. And that's why they say you can't push back against this, all right? Because they know automatically people are going to push back against these things because it's going to work against them, right? Again, not in their favor, right?
Hey,
it says here a little more.
Salakia,
Yep.
bro, real quick, because you just mentioned that. I actually just saw a video on what you just mentioned about AI, and now they're saying that like, if you thought that AI is a threat or is taking jobs as it is now, there's a term that they're using. I forgot what it's called, but it has the term body in it. It's like something body, but it's basically AI. Like, now they're working on AI in robots, right? To say that, like, forget the digital stuff. Now it's like an AI robot can replace like a nurse. It can replace a doctor. It can pretty much replace anything that you need to physically do that involves like physically moving and all of that. And they said the same thing that this guy, Yuval Noah Harari, said with the data. They said all those like meta glasses, the VR headsets, the Tesla cars, and all of those, whenever they talk about sending diagnostic reports, they're actually looking at everything you're doing from a human perspective, how your hands are moving, what you're looking at, how you're interacting with things. So the robot in itself, once they're training it in the virtual world, everything you're doing is actually it's taking that information and it's training those robots in that virtual dimension so that when they physically move, they can move like actual human beings. That's where you get your whole ex machina stuff from. So just wanted to mention that they're pretty much at the point of like, forget just the intelligence. Now it's the intelligence inside of actual bodies. So now you got a bigger problem on your hands.
Hey, I've been saying it that I believe that that whole 4 year Biden thing, he was definitely a robot, man. It was just an experiment. Like, yo, let's see if we could really fool these people and see if they're going to buy this Biden shit. And that's exactly what happened. Because I think Trump just made a tweet, I think last week somewhere on Truth Central or Truth.com, whatever his shit is. And he said that, oh, Biden was, you saw that, right? AI about abolitionists. Oh shit. That's what it is, Bakar. That's what you were saying?
Yeah, I think so. Let me just confirm real quick, but I think it might be that. Let me see.
God. Yeah, but Trump was basically saying that, Biden was executed back in 2019 and there's all been a test run and all these different things. I'm like, yeah, I've been saying that though. I've been saying that for a minute, but hey, conspiracy theories, man. Hey, we go crazy with it. But anyway, so going back to sedition while the brother finds the definition or what he's looking for. All right, it says violent strife between factions. That's Isaiah 19. All right, that's Matthew 24, that's Mark 13, that's Luke 21. All right, second Ezra 15, what we just read, right? All these things, Ezra is seeing these things, right? It says civil or religious disorder, riot, right? The very same word, sedition, we're seeing that happening now, known as a riot today. All right. It says what? It says rebelliousness against authority. Okay. And it says civil disorder, dissension, strife, rebellion, mutiny, literally going apart, separation. That's a division. And a kingdom that's divided against itself shall not stand. So we're seeing the end of this kingdom, but these people don't put the pieces together. Even if we bring it out to them, they're not going to see it, right? It says here, the meaning, conduct or language inciting to rebellion against a lawful government is attested by 1833. It says in early use, factious with tumult, turbulent. All right, and this is what they need. That's that chaos, right? They need that turbulence. And guess what's going to happen? A lot of Americans are going to end up getting messed up by the military, and that's going to be a tone setter. All right, because they have to do that. They have to put a quick and almost like about a few hundred people die, right? You shoot up a few hundred people. You got to set the tone and then change the pace, right? Because now it goes from we just for riots, all this and that, to now you're getting hit with military bullets and shit. It changes the game. Now everybody's like, oh shit, what the fuck? Bloodshed. People actually died. The military just used force against America. Like, hold on, that's unconstitutional. What the hell? That escalates everything. And then you get into the intricate details of those executive orders that's been signed for all these years. Oh, wait a minute. The NDA Act comes into play. Oh, wait a minute. FEMA comes into play. Oh, wait a minute. The Patriot Act comes into play, right? All these different things where they have things set up saying that American citizens are already the enemy of the state. All right. And based on that concept, we can use our offensive weapons with the military against the enemies, whether it's domestic or foreign. If you categorize American citizens who are against the narrative as domestic threats, you can use that force against them because now they're the enemy, right? The enemy from within, like Trump and them be saying, right? So who's the enemy from within? The Americans who say no to the new regime that's coming with the technocrats. And when you have Palantir and Neuralink and what's the other one? Oracle, all these different companies working together. What's this guy? The other guy who's been battling with Elon Musk. The guy, AI, the open AI guy. What's his name?
Sam Altman.
Sam Altman. Yep. You got him also playing a role in this thing. And when they come out and say, hey, listen, this is just how things are gonna be, they mean that shit because they've done the experiments already. They had and I was talking to brothers earlier before we started the stream about Sweden. Sweden is the end goal. China is the process to get to that end goal. America is the one country that they need to get on board because America is the one that has the most armed citizens that can fight back, right? You have so-called constitutions and Bill of Rights that protects you from certain things like what we're seeing today, right? So they have to break down the American system and bring in something new, but it's all going to be done through deception. Since the 50s and even before that, you had something known as subversion, which is over the years with propaganda and all these different false flags and all these different things they've done. They've had the minds of the American people not to put the pieces together, not to look at their government as a threat. So now everything is all, we're Americans and the government is going to take care of it. to the point where we got to the point where Trump can literally come out and say, yeah, we're going to come after you and there's nothing you can do about it. And they'll be like, yeah, no problem. Biden could literally say, hey, if you try to come against the American government, you need F-15s and all. He said that shit. Like, and we're like, yo, hold up. Why is he saying all these things? Because they send a tone. They're letting you know we're going to be coming for you. And we have everything set up ready to go. We got FEMA camps. We got concentration camps. We got Alcatraz. Trump said he's going to open up Alcatraz again, right? We got, what's the other one? Guantanamo Bay, right? They got Alaska, Fairbanks, Alaska, right? They got all kinds of different places ready for American people who want to say nah to this thing, man. All right? So it's going to get crazy. But this sedition thing is just it's what kicks the ball rolling. And like I said, they're gonna get what they want, but it has to come through the digital means. All these things you're seeing now is to destroy what we have now, to bring in that digital order, so to speak. All right, to establish that techno-political power. All right, but you got it, bro.
I was gonna say that it's funny how you said a lot of Americans are gonna have to get put to death because they are very proud of the nation of the world. They will go to another person's country and then they will start talking shit. And then they start breaking laws. And then when they get arrested, they'll be like, yo, I'm an American, thinking that makes them immune, to ass whoopings. So they have that mindset in Babylon. And that's why I'm thinking like, yo, I can really imagine an American in the face of troops trying to be like, yo, F5, I got rights. And then he get a gun. He gets his face busting out of a gun. And then he ain't going to be saying America no more. So that's... That's just hilarious. And I kept thinking about that. So a lot of Americans are going to have to die because there has to be like a massive re-education. Their brains are dead. Like they're not responsive to the physical world anymore. That's why you can't, like when shit pops off, it ain't about speech. When they have to reform society, they're not going to talk the people into it. They're going to force them into it. They're going to beat them into it. Right. And then they're going to use the people that they've beaten as an example to it because Babylonians, part of what makes them soft is the fact that they're disassociated from the physical world. They don't know what it means to be beaten. They don't know what it means for someone to abuse their power over them. They've been sheltered from the terrible things in the world for a long time. So a lot of them are going to get put to death, and a lot of them are going to get in that concentration camps. And that's just going to be it. What is it? Someone tried to use that I am American line in the movie Civil War. And the guy with the gun asked, well, what kind of American? Yeah. Remember that? Yep, Khan. So they do that very often. They are so used to going into another country and shooting off their mouth. Like they go to Gaza and then they're like, yo, don't go to this area. They be like, nah, we got the aid. Now we're gonna send to them. And then when the dude comes up, yo, didn't I tell you not to feed these people? Go back there. And they go, nah, I'm an American, bro. And then bam, something happens. And then now they want to be on the news. You go in another person's country, shooting off your mouth and thinking ain't nothing gonna happen to you. Their minds are gone. And that's what scripture says of what, like some many strives for a fool, roughly paraphrasing,
Yeah, I had something real quick. I don't know if you saw Shalom Malcolm Yahbashim Shabakathum. Yeah, exactly. The Insurrection Act, right? Because you were mentioning all those different laws that they have, Aharon, and this is one of them. So it says the Insurrection Act, enacted in 1807, grants the president authority to deploy the military or National Guard to suppress domestic unrest, including insurrections. What is an insurrection? Rebellion against those that are in authority, the powers that be. In situations where the enforcement of federal law is deemed impracticable. It also allows for the use of the military to address situations where the state fails to protect individuals' constitutional rights. So they'll say that the immigration threat, that's a threat to people's individual constitutional rights because you're threatening people's security, right? Because look at what these people are doing. But as you mentioned earlier, we know how they play the game. All right, 2 horns as a lamb, but spake as a dragon, which if you could pull that up, Baruch Shah, and I'll read it. This is exactly the playbook that they've always had, that left-right paradigm, and we see how they're setting it up. Now all of a sudden, these are popping up.
You can pull it up on your tab too.
Oh yeah,
I'm sharing yours.
The water. Revelation 13 and 11. Right. Yep. It says here, Revelation 13 and 11, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Right. So those two horns, that two-party system. All right. Speaking as a lamb is a docile, soft creature. All right. So when they speak as though they're coming for your benefit. Right. Both sides. Both of them are acting like they're the righteous cause on the earth. Right. But what do? And he spake as a dragon. And when you go into that word for dragon in the blue letter, see if I can just pull it up real quick. All right. It basically deals with I'm gonna just pull it up. Revelation 13. In the blue letter, the word there for dragon, it says G, that's the spirit. The Greek is G1404. I mean, come on, that's a sign right there. But it's Dracon, and it says a dragon, a great serpent, and name for Satan. So they're coming as a lamb, and the lamb, represents, the lamb's wool. The lamb is Yahweh Shai. That represents righteousness, or coming in in a way that's supposed to benefit you, right? But really, when they're speaking, what are they speaking as? A dragon, a serpent. All right. It says what? A fabulous kind of serpent. Right. They wandered after the beast, a dragon. So they'll have these things set up. And now you're going to see all of these Democrat states. Watch, Chicago, New York, LA, for the rest of however long they want to have this going to accomplish their goal. You're going to be seeing these things pop up. They're going to have agent provocateurs. The scripture says their heart is deep. All right. The heart is deep, dealing with their mind and the secret counsels that they get into. They go deep into these things in order to destroy, to divide, and to destroy. Okay. So as we see these things playing out, it's important for us to keep a spiritual eye towards it. And we're breaking it down and filtering it through the Bible ultimately, because when we see these things, the regular average person, like I know that this thing was rolling heavy when it comes to this whole ICE thing rolling out of control, because I had people in my family start talking to me about it. It was like, oh yeah, did you see this and that? On the way here, on the way back, I was out by the city. On the way back, I was listening to 107.5, and they had Christy Nome doing a public service announcement. Now, 107.5 is like basically a liberal station. So before the announcement came on from Christy Nome, they said 107.5 and his parent company does not agree with the statement that's about to come. So right there, they're having a division. 107.5 ain't with it, but they're going to roll out this message anyway. So people that are listening, they're going to be frustrated because they're not used to hearing like a conservative side of things, right? But what they said was basically, if you're illegal, if you're illegal, you got to turn yourself in. There's Venezuelans that committed this crime, did that crime. It's like people from all types of, Edomites do a bunch of crimes and mass shootings. You know what I'm saying? So, but they want to focus on so-called Latinos, which a lot of our people are wicked. But the thing is, they want to make you and demonize you, because that's going to be part of the way to tie us into it, to make our face, because people are very simple-minded. They're not going to look at the details of it. As long as they see a Latino face and they think negative, or a so-called Black or Latino or Native American face and think negative, that's what they're going to go with. All right. They're demonizing Haitians too, because a lot of them, are so-called illegal in this country, or they've come here, So ultimately, what is it creating? More division, instilling more fear in the people, and that's going to make them want more security. So as we see the summer roll on, we're going to see in all these Democrat cities with these Democrat governors and mayors, they're going to have these things rolling out, and there's going to be that division. But we know it's all by design in order to set up ordo ab chaos, right? And that ordo ab chaos is going to lead into that MOTB, and these people are going to fall right into that snare. But you got it.
Kind of real quick, Sly, just wanted to just a comment real quick. Yeah, that I thought Revelation 13 and 11 was referring to Babylon and not Trump or a person. Yeah, I just want to say, like, it is referring to Babylon, right? But when you read the scriptures and you, I think in Sirach, it mentions how as the ruler of the people are, so are the people. Babylon in itself, it's the land, right? So the Babylon is not the one that's actually doing these things, right? It's actually the rulers of Babylon. And so when we speak like this, we're sort of speaking on a more granular level. So how would Babylon speak as like a lamb, right? Or have the appearance of a lamb or speak as a dragon? That's going to be by way of the legislations which are put into place and passed by the rulers, right? By the president, by the government and those that are up top over there. So yes, it is speaking about Babylon, but on the manifestation, how this manifests, you do need to have rulers, right? And different like political parties, so to speak, which are still made of people to cause that effect of appearing like a lamb or speaking as a dragon. So just to clarify that.
Yeah, I have a prime example for exactly what you just said, in the sense that when they speak, right, when they speak, it typically goes through their Congress legislation and so on and so forth. They actually have a house where they actually speak these things, like, okay, there's this bill, da da da, and then they'll say, okay, who's for it, who's against it, that kind of thing, and then it becomes a law, right? So they actually speak in the house to come up with these things, right? But ultimately, like you said, it's going to be it's not Babylon, the actual country or the nation itself that comes up with these things. It's actually, yeah, there you go. There you go. That's Shalom, Zakwan, Yahbashim, Shabrakta. Right? Biden came as a lamb, right? Which is a spirit of being docile and not a threat, right? Everybody's more, you embrace a lamb before you go after, you're not going to embrace a ram. You know it's dangerous. It could mess you up. But a lamb, that's not, it's not going to do anything to you, right? It's very docile. Like, Biden literally was docile. Niggas falling down the stairs and shit, like a newborn lamb that can't even walk on his legs and shit. This nigga was a whole clown. But that was the deceptive step to bring in the draconian, which is the spirit that the Lord has put on Trump. And before he came in, like Buzz been saying, he came in with the mindset of law and order. Like, I'm not here for no games. We're going to do what we got to do. And if you don't like it, I'm going to take you out, right? I got this one here real quick. And this came out back in April. And I remember doing a lesson on it. And I remember vividly mentioning how this is all going to bring about martial law. I said that in the video, and I'm glad they didn't take it down, so we can actually go back and watch it. But the title goes, Donald Trump's new order sparks martial law concerns. And this was back in April, it's dated April 29th. Okay. And this was all going into, I saw you mentioned about the Insurrections Act. Let's read. It says, President Donald Trump has ordered federal agencies to increase the flow of military and national security equipment to local law enforcement, a move that has raised concerns about the militarization of policing across the United States. And that's Isaiah 19, where it goes into the cruel Lord. When you go into that word cruel, it's synonymous with draconian in Revelation 13:11. All right, about the dragon. All right, Draco. All right, that's what they're building up right now. And they're using these, like I keep saying, these technological agencies like Palantir and them to bring about this draconian system. Okay, where it's not going to be, you're no longer dealing with people, you're dealing with entities, you're dealing with non-human devices that are going based on what they've been programmed to go based on. That's that beast system where you can't really negotiate anything. It's either you have it or you don't. You know what I'm saying? If you don't, you're looked at as a public enemy and you're going to be made an example of, right? So it says, research into militarized police forces has found the practice can erode public trust. That's what you're seeing now, right? The public against the government, against their law, so-called law enforcement, right? It says escalate encounters between police and citizens. That's what you're seeing in LA. Okay, remember, I believe was it next year they're going to be having the I believe it's a World Cup or something like that they're going to be doing, or it's 2028, something like that, right? But they got I think it's 2028, 27, 2028. They got the World Cup thing going on that's going to be held in LA. And then they also got the Smart Cities LA agenda shit that they got going on, where they were burning down all these houses and all that. So it's very interesting that they're going to start this whole thing over there in LA. Like, oh, okay, let's see how this plays out and what they're going to tie into it. Like I said before, there's a lot of narratives that could come from this, right? A lot of laws and legislations that could come out of this. A lot of lifestyle changes that could come out of this, right? So we're going to see, and it's all going to affect so many different states as well. All right. It says, This is going to blur the distinction between military operations and domestic law enforcement. This executive order specifically has increased fears around an encroachment toward martial law. Okay, this was back in April, and now we're here in June. Okay, within 2 months, you're seeing the difference between something that was talked about and how it's going to play out within 2 months. And years ago, these kind of things would be like probably 5-10 years before shit like that plays out. 2 months and it's already playing out. So the Lord is speeding everything up, man. Right? It says the president has already called for his government to review the Insurrection Act. That's why Shar brought out, which would give more domestic power to the military. And that's going to go against Paz y Comitatus, right? Which is using U.S. military to engage in law enforcement activities in America against American citizens. All right, that was to prohibit that, but now they're going to circumvent that. Okay, in the name of these are illegals, and we don't know who's illegal and who's legal, so we're just going to come after everyone. That's going into Rex 84, right? So it says, and now wants to provide regular law enforcement with militaristic material. It says the strength. This is the executive order. It's called the Strengthening and Unleashing America's Law Enforcement to Pursue Criminals and Protect Innocent Citizens executive order. Okay, and when you read through it, it's basically giving them the ability to use lethal force in terms of deadly force against American citizens. That is insane. And like I said before, that's what's going to kick the game. It's going to be a game changer. As soon as they start using deadly force against American citizens, based on the reaction, you're going to see something different come out of that. All right, like they always say, the real reaction is in the real action is in the reaction, problem, reaction, solution. All right, it says the executive order which the president signed on Monday directs Attorney General Pam Bondi and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, in consultation with Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, which the Zaquan mentioned earlier, and other agency heads, to increase the provision of excess military and national security assets in local jurisdictions within 90 days. Okay, from April 29th to June, what's today, 8th or 9th? To June 9th is about 30 and some odd days, right? So we're about to get into this next few more days to get to 60 days and then 90 days. But it says the range within the next 90 days. All right. So that's long enough for them to come up with all these things. It says the directive gives the Attorney General and the Secretary of Defense a 3-month deadline to begin expanding the provision of military and national security resources to assist state and local law enforcement. So can we say that LA is just a testing ground for those things that they're about to implement soon around the states? With, again, Palantir, all these different companies like we mentioned earlier, could this be the testing ground before they start implementing it all throughout the states? We're going to see, right? It says here, while the order does not specify the types of equipment that will be made available, past programs involving the transfer of military gear to police departments have included armored vehicles. So you throwing all these rocks and shit like that, it's not going to do nothing, all right? It says tactical equipment and surveillance technology. Palantir plays a role in that. Okay, surveillance technology. All right. The order also stipulates within 90 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Defense, in coordination with the Attorney General, shall determine how military and national security assets, training, non-lethal capabilities, and personnel can most effectively be utilized to prevent crime. What does that even mean? To prevent crime. What does that mean? Right? That's very vague, and that's done by design. Okay, because when the time comes, they can always go into different directions because they just said, oh, to prevent crime. So anything that they deem as a crime, they're going to be able to use these things against, which eventually they're going to criminalize speech, right? They already started with the rhetoric of hate speech and anti-Sem and all these different things. Yo, when everybody's coming against the Jays, what do you think they're going to start doing? They're going to start making laws to criminalize those who speak against those kind of things. That's all it takes. And that's like almost 90% of Americans who come against these kind of agendas. Any agenda that they're going to put out there, if you come against it, you'll be deemed a criminal, point blank, period. And that's what they have in Sweden. All right, Sweden, they've gone so far as to change the language because what in there, they said that, look, we're going to have to change certain languages and how you understand it because the actions no longer exist. The word riot doesn't exist in Sweden. Why? Because you can't riot. If you can't do the act, there's no point in having the word anyway. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we do away with the act and then eventually we do away with the language, at that point, it's out of your mind. It doesn't exist. Okay, so you can't say, "Oh, we're gonna riot." How you gonna riot? That word doesn't even exist in our vocabulary, because those actions are not permitted. You cannot riot out in Sweden and get away with it. You know what I'm saying? So continue. It says, in addition to bolstering local law enforcement agencies, the White House has moved to expand the role of the U.S. military in domestic law enforcement. Earlier this month, Trump issued a presidential memorandum that directed the military to take more direct role in securing the southern border, with the ability to detain and search individuals in the New Mexico National Defense Area. And remember, the highlighted word there will be border, okay? Because in America, a border simply means anywhere between within 100-mile radius of whether it's an airport, whether it's a actual border, right? Whether it's a Canada border or the southern border, okay? Or whether it's you're at a ship or a dock, right? So if, let's say you're in Jersey, right? The Atlantic Ocean will be considered a border because it goes from one place to the next, right? So that'll be a border. If you're living within 100-mile radius of any airport or any ship dock or anything like that, that'll be considered a border where border agencies can come at you. All right. So within 100-mile radius, bro, there's mad airports around us, bro. So it's like we're all pretty much considered part of being at the border. So whatever border situation that's going to be coming down the pike is going to affect those who are in the 100-mile radius vicinity. Okay. So that's also another conniving tactic they're going to use. But notice it says to detain and search individuals. So what are we going to expect with that? You're going to see checkpoints. Those are also going to be coming back. Okay. And then you got people saying, yo, this is terrifying. You know, this is a truly terrifying executive order, all these different things. Well, it's not about to play out. It says all local law enforcement will now use aggressive tactics to police cities. And when they break the law, those big law firms who caved will represent them pro bono. Martial law is starting. Okay. So this was back in April. All right. And now we're in June. It says here a little bit more. It says the Department of Justice and the Department of Defense are expected to develop and initiate the expanded transfer program by July 27th, according to the order. So we got a date right there. All right. So we're going to pay attention to that. It says details on the types of military equipment to be distributed, the criteria for local agency eligibility, and oversight measures are expected to emerge as the agencies work to fulfill the directive. Okay. So yeah, man. Look at that. California lawsuit accuses Trump of unprecedented power grab in LA. Right? It says LAPD says it wasn't informed about Marine deployment poses significant challenge. So you already have a division within the forces in and of itself. The LAPD saying, "Oh, we weren't told about these things here." So what's going to happen? That's another clash right there. The state versus the feds, right? LA riots, how Mexican flag photos are, whatever, right? So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, but this is all part of the orchestrated chaos, which is to bring that confusion enough where they can use as a propellant to bring in a whole lot more draconian measures. All right, all in the name of law and order. All right, but you got it, bro.
Yeah, just to add to your point, and I'll give it to the next brother. I just saw Matt Walsh put up a video, and he said that the Mexican flag is now the symbol of destruction. You see? So you see how they're doing Revelation 12 and 10, the accuser of our brethren, as you went into. The accuser of our brethren. What is he doing? Categorizing you. He puts you in that box. He puts you in, lumps you in with a group of people. So now we're all in the same category. You see? So now you're talking about salvation for blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, but Latinos are going crazy right now. So you with this? So they're going to start to try to say that.
Which a lot of people have expressed confusion on social media because they're wondering, well, if these people love Mexico so much, to the point that they're going to wave the Mexican flag as they besiege a foreign country, why don't they just go back to Mexico? Why are they violently resisting any attempt by the Trump administration to return them to the homeland that they're supposedly so proud of? Doesn't appear to make a lot of sense. And on one level, you know, the answer seems obvious. These people don't want to go back to Mexico because they destroyed it. That's apparently what they're capable of doing, destroying things. To be sure, we're constantly told about all the wondrous benefits that hardworking Mexicans bring to our country. And yet Mexico, with all of its Mexicans, is a dysfunctional hellhole that Mexicans desperately want to escape. So something isn't quite adding up here.
Yeah. And it's just crazy because he talks about, well, they're violently, but didn't your ancestors come here and violently take everything and pillage and buck break and destroy to get what you got? And then this damn demon wants to talk about Christian values, man. Was it Christian values when you were giving our babies as alligator bait? Was it Christian values when the slave master, abused men in a sexual fashion to break them down in front of the whole group of slaves? You see, but this is a damn hypocrite. But again, this type of situation, this is why we tell our people, don't go out and do this type of shit. To be orderly and wait upon the Lord. But again, they're using certain people and they're using this whole agenda to demonize the Lord's people ultimately. Black, Latino, Native American, doesn't matter. As if you in that category, you're going to be looked at a type of way now. You see, and this is what his plan is. Okay, but it's in the guise of security and this and that. But it's devils like him that they're going to use in talking heads, podcasters and people that are popular so-called online, and they're going to be used in order to push that narrative. Most Issacharites that I know, they ain't with that shit. They might be against what's happening, but they're not going to go over there and do all that extra shit. But then again, you do have simple Jakes that might do it. But the point being that the majority of Jake, really, they just want to work, especially Issachar. All they want to do is really work and mind their own business. I don't see them out there doing this shit. But again, they're pushing that agenda, and they'll get certain sellouts to do it to demonize the rest of us. You see, but ultimately, the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai is going to preserve us from all of these false accusations. So it's good that it's happening because now he's showing his horns, and this is the perfect administration to do it. This man is coming down. He is acting as that cruel Lord from, I think it's Isaiah 19, right? So he is acting in that stead. And we see how it's playing out. And we're not even half a year into this man's administration. We got 4 years of this shit. Imagine what's about to happen, man. Woo! Ooh, baby. You got it.
Hey, Ayash, I got you real quick. When you mentioned something about how they're going to tie us in, it just hit me through the spirit that there's a reason why you got them ISUPK dudes all of a sudden doing all this training shit. Were they training for something like this? Right? Because you got IUIC, they always want to be everywhere there's some bullshit going on. You see them niggas marching up and down with all the purple shit. Hey, Jesus Christ, blah, blah, bullshit. ISUPK, I just posted a video, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, where they're doing this marching thing. And I'm like, so all this training, all this marching, all this, they got this Edomite who came in and did this whole documentary about the Black Hebrew Israelite, all that dumb shit. Could this really be something that was being set up for now? We're going to see, right? Because they always got to, the left-hand side always got to come in and be like, all right, hey, listen, we're about to build up our case against the right-hand side, so we need y'all to do your thing, all right? We gave you all this money for a reason, so go ahead. Now it's time for you to, pay back, So we could see that. We could see that happening. I wouldn't be surprised, right? I'm sure brothers will not be surprised, but we're going to see it. Where all these camps, all of a sudden, you're going to have them in the midst of all this chaos where you don't want to be. They ain't going to find themselves there just because that's what niggas do, But we're going to see, man. We're going to see. And this time, hey, the Lord might not even let them get away with it. You might not just get a Kenya and get away with it. This time, you might get some bullets up your ass, man. You know what I'm saying? That would be a nice thing to see. Get these niggas back in their right mind. But you got it, bro.
No, I was going to say it's a good point you made, Ashia, on the audacity of this devil, to call someone destructive. The scripture says he speaks wickedly concerning oppression. But I wanted to, I thought of an example on him, acting out as a dragon as opposed to being a lamb. And I was watching this, it was kind of like a podcast and a little bit of a documentary where these people, when they send their military out there and they send them out to keep order, they will set a curfew. And if they ever see anybody of the native land, even if you're driving down the street, like let's say you late for work or something like that, they will light your fucking ass up. They will that heavy ass, big ass shit on them trucks, they will unload that shit on the car. And then he said that after that, all you just see is paste. And then they just leave it there. And then and then the natives come in and then they got to bury the body or clean it. And they don't even do anything about it. And they got to do it. There was also examples where he was specific about this, where he was a sniper, and he said that sometimes he would just go into someone's crib, and then they would look through his crib, take everything that they could use to maybe attack them. He said just to control the area. So any 9%, so you can't cook. And he will be a sniper. He can be there for days. So you can't go anywhere in the house. So you in there with them, and you're just a hostage. And then this is like Afghanistan. So they just be in there waiting for someone, a target because they have an information that a target may pass by that area. So they just gotta wait, and then just waiting, and you just in there with your kids, and you got all these men in your crib, and you're standing there. So when the scripture talks about, as a madman, Babylonians don't really understand, like, when these motherfuckers are terrible. Okay, they are fucking scary. That's why even David said, "My enemies are too strong for me." In the book of Psalms, let me see if I can get right now, the 18th chapter. Deliver me from my enemies, for they were too strong for me. Right, Psalms 18 and 48. No. Let me see. It's in the 18th chapter, but
I got a precept to back you up after.
God. Right, yeah. Psalms 18:17. He delivered me from my strong enemy, and from them which that hate me, for they were too strong for me. So in the time of Jacob's trouble, that's why we say that salvation comes through the Heavenly Father. Because when I'm watching this documentary, I'm seeing all these things that they do overseas, and hearing Matt Welch talk about how other countries are destroyed and how America is the greatest. The only reason it is that way is because, like the scripture says, it's established upon iniquity and blood. Okay, they take other people's resources and then they build it upon their own, and then they turn around and call somebody poor, call someone unaccomplished, underachieved, and that's why the Lord hates these people. The Lord, when it talks about they are the people of wickedness, these are the subtle things that really, it's not subtle, but people are just willfully blind to it, which makes them complicit in it, right? The scripture talks about when you close your eyes to wickedness and you don't even speak forth, you become part of the problem. Your ass needs to be put to death. That's why a lot of these people out there that are advocating for Esau, that come up against us for preaching that they are downfall, the Lord is going to destroy them also, because they don't have the mindset of a righteous judge. They are going to be a problem if you want to establish righteousness. These motherfuckers out here want wickedness to be established. That's why the scripture also says that ye are of your father the devil. But these troops are fucking dangerous. When Esau wants something done and he sends these men out there, they will do exactly what they want them to do, right? None of your crying is going to work, especially when they got this AI thing going on, because like, I don't know I'm trying to find a polite way to say this, but these men will do some things, not just like physically hurt people, but like sexual assault also. So all the things that they've been doing out there hasn't numbed them. They have been numbed in their mind, right? And so, like, if they see a person crying, a mother's kids, while you in there with a gun, and you always constantly looking back, and they can't even cook, they can't eat nothing, and you don't give a shit, you just care about the mission, completing the mission. They leave, they come home, and then they receive a fucking parade like they're righteous men, but not knowing all the things they did back there, not knowing the things that he's capable of doing to your ass once he's back here, right? That's why you see people getting shot in the head, and then like the videos that Kwan posting in the chat, this woman gets shot in the head, and then the dude is like, "Oh, there's no ambulance. There's no ambulance because you haven't called it," and then he wants somebody to call the ambulance. And he's like, "Yo, you shot the woman. You better call the ambulance." But he doesn't want to. He feels it's not his responsibility. So that's the dragon aspect of him. When we call this man a devil, and people don't understand, he will prove he's gonna be the one actually telling you I'm the devil. And then at that point, you're gonna have to understand what it means for Esau to be a fucking devil.
Absolutely.
Yep. And that woman, she appeared to be looked like an Edomite. So how much more when it's an actual Israelite, right? Esau's not going to have any sympathy, no remorse. Remember, he has a perpetual hatred that was ingrained in him. And you had a whole Biden administration that basically put Jake at the forefront of these different government agencies and institutions that made it appear to the populace like the reason for the downfall or the decadency of Babylon was because of all of these, as Trump liked to say, low IQ people that are in office or in these high positions. That's why when he came in here, all of his cabinet is nothing but Edomites. And now all of these Edomites, are looking and they're buying into this rhetoric of, these people are low IQ. They don't deserve to be in these type of positions. We need to drain the swamp of all of this leftists and libtards and all this shit. But it's all really just getting Esau back into that supremacy mindset. That had something real quick. I don't want to read the whole thing, but I just seen this. Pull it up right here. So apparently on the 14th, right? Very ironic, the timing of it, but it says U.S. law enforcement prepare for hundreds of thousands to attend Army parade in Washington. So it says law enforcement agencies are preparing for hundreds of thousands of people to attend a celebration in Washington, D.C. for the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary on June 14th. U.S. Secret Service Special Agent in charge Matt McCool told a press briefing on Monday. McCool said 1,000 of agents, officers, and specialists will be deployed from local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies from across the country for security. The FBI and Metropolitan Police Department both told reporters there were no credible threats to the event. We're preparing for an enormous turnout, McCool said. That is why we are leaving no stone unturned. The event, which coincides with President Donald Trump's 79th birthday, includes an Army birthday festival on the National Mall and will culminate with a parade through the Capitol and an enlistment and re-enlistment ceremony presided over by the president. So, like I said, it's very interesting the timing that this is happening. That you have this, Army parade and big, extravagant celebration happening in D.C. while you have, which D.C. technically would be considered like a blue state or a blue area, right? That area over there is highly democratic. So, them doing that along with all of these, protesting going on. I had something else that's showing here over here in Tampa, and this is the real situation, right? Because you have the Army that is, being deployed against the protesters, but what it's also causing, which what we read in Isaiah the 19th chapter, is a divide amongst the so-called, patriots and the MAGA, and against the people that are looked at as being, the left or immigrants and things of that nature, or that's for, advocating for the immigrants. So let me play this real quick as well. So this is in Tampa. It says Patriots hold counter rally against anti-S protesters in Tampa.
Go back to Mexico. If you love Mexico, go back to Mexico. Yeah, and you're fat.
So so that's really, the tensions that is building up, right? When Americans, these, hardcore six-pack Joe Americans see these, Mexican flags being waved or foreign flags of these Latino countries being waved, they get like really, really incited, right? To the point where they're willing to go to war, right? You even had it when they was going down to Eagle Pass, Texas. You know, you had that whole um, people. I forgot what they were, who they were, but you had a whole bunch of patriots, so-called patriots, who was willing to go down there and shoot up anybody that's coming across the border. So that was back then when things wasn't really as hot, right? Because you didn't have the whole ICE situation and all these things. But now you're seeing this whole thing, get to that boiling point. So this is something that is not really going to be a one-time thing, because the ICE agents, they're not going to stop. They're not going to say, okay, you know what, we're not going to try to get the immigrants out of here anymore. They're going to keep doing that. But the same time they're doing that, and I also think that was purposely done as well, you have a lot of what they call mistakes, right? You're having people that are American citizens. You're having people that aren't, violent, that's been here for years, right? You have somebody that was actually here on vacation from Chile that basically got grabbed up in New York City while she was with her daughter, 12-year-old daughter, broad daylight. And she was like, basically like, oh, I'm actually vacationing here. And they just grabbed her. They didn't even say nothing, just took her away and left her daughter, 12-year-old daughter, on the street by herself. And it's just like, those things are being publicized. So it's like, are you not going to, speak about these things? No, you're letting this happen because you want people to be, upset. You want as we always going, you want the reaction so that you can bring in that solution, which, I can see Trump, making an executive order saying, we got to cancel all protestings, right? Because it's become so violent. So anybody that's out on the streets, if there's more than 4 or 5 people, then it's an illegal gathering. And that's how you can, same thing with the epidemic, for a time period, we didn't go out on the highways and byways, not because it was directly against us, but because of the order that was given, it wasn't wise to go out. So that could be a way that the famine of the word, starts to be brought in as well, because understand that for all these things that we always say, these devils still want to come after this truth as well. So they're just trying to find their different ways, their different snares to set it up to where they could just lump everything all together, one big, beautiful bill to get the Israelites. But you got it.
Yeah, I want to mention one thing too, as a spirit, because ultimately all these things that's happening, the stirring up of Babylon in and of itself is mostly centered behind the two kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, right? Because back in 2020 with the whole George Floyd thing, it was the Black Lives Matter situation that caused an uproar, right? Which is mostly southern kingdom. And then now you have northern kingdom with all this whole illegal immigration thing going on. So when you look at both times where America has pretty much had cities getting burned and all these different things, most of the time you got Jake's that's always in there in the mix somewhere. Is either they're the reason or they're part of the reason, right? So it's always some type of flare up that comes up whenever Jake is in the midst, right? Look at the Civil War. Jake was in the midst. It was mostly, of course, you had the Union versus the Confederacy and stuff like that, right? The Confederate states that were going back and forth, but they had Jake in the mix of it as well as part of the sensationalism part, right? Because it was mostly because of economics, but they had to put Jake in there for it to really fuel the fire, and they know that Esau knows that if we incorporate these people in our plans, it's going to work and it's going to work well. The only thing is we need to eliminate the people within those groups that are the light, or at least the ones who shine the light on the darkness that we're trying to use them for, which are the prophets. So like you said, Zaquan, their end goal ultimately is, how do we eliminate the truth? How do we eliminate the prophets? Right? Because I was watching the Dallas brothers a few days ago. I think it was Elder Yashua who posted it, and it was going into they had a little discourse with an Edomite, a couple of Edomites that came up. And one thing that the Edomite said that stuck to me was, you guys are telling the truth and you're saying it in a way that's not popular, in the sense that most people today, they would like to say what we say, but they're afraid of the societal norms that they might break, right? Which is, oh, I can't say this because somebody might look at me weird or whatever. We just come out right and just tell you what it is, because we're in the world, but not of the world. So the things that the world consists of and acts of as the norms, it don't pertain to us at all. We're just calling it out for what it is. So we look at it from a different point of view. the world looks at it more like, oh, this is how our world is. We can't really speak against it because then what if they eliminate me from the world? Like I still have my job. I need to work and pay my bills. And the guy ultimately said, eventually when the MOTB comes out, he's going to take it. We don't have no intentions of taking it because in our minds, we know that's just a test for a short time, and then the end comes. For them, it's a technological advancement / progression that must take place, and if you don't partake in it, you're going to be asked out. In a world that is so technologically, I would use the word technologically sound in the sense that everything you do runs through technology. So in order to actually work and pay your bills and just live in society alone, you must be in the technology stage. You must have some technology within you in order to function. We don't look at it like that. We look at it as more like the Lord's going to take care of us for that short time. We're going to be out of here. They see that as this is just how the world is going. The guy said it. It's just the way the world is going now, and eventually it's going to come, and we're going to have to deal with it. Well, but for how long though, right? And what do you mean by deal with it? What do you mean by that, right? So it's like people are already conditioned to accept these things to come out, and the part where they actually get to accept it hasn't come yet. But this is the building stage. This is all part of the building stages to get to that point. So when those guys came up and they were having a discourse with the prophets, it was like they knew, like, yo, nah, we talking to like people who are on a different level. Like everything they're saying, the guy said, yo, you guys are presenting facts. Brothers, they have to go pull up a book and be like, hey, these are the facts. No, it was just spiritual, just coming out. And the facts are literally just saying, yo, this America, this is what it really is. Oh shit. Well, damn, I didn't know. I mean, you guys are telling the truth because we know too, but we pretend like we don't know because we want to keep on going with the system. And in order to keep on going with the system, we got to live that lie. But you guys are literally just breaking down the whole lie, and that's something that's dangerous to the rulers of the society, because it's like, yo, if you break down the lie and the deception, the people are going to see it for what it is, and they're going to build confidence to come against it. We don't want that. You know what I'm saying? We want to continue pushing the propaganda. We want to continue to push the distractions, right? This whole Trump birthday / parade is a distraction. All right. Magicians call it misdirection. All right. We're going to put something in your face, and then while you're looking at it, we'll get you with something else. And then boom, we get you up out of there. You know what I'm saying? So that's all that's happening. All of a sudden, Trump want to have a parade, a birthday parade. Nigga, what president, what's the last president that did that, some type of shit like that? Where they say it's going to cost over $40 million. What? Nigga, ain't the economy like about to die or some shit? Like there's a whole recession and all these different things. People ain't got money in their pockets. You're going to use 42 million or however much $1 million to do a damn parade for one day just to show off, just to have a party? This is mad strange, bro. And whose money are you using for all these things, right? So it's like all these things happen, and Americans are not even putting the pieces together. But again, this is all done by design, man. But you got it, bro.
Hey, just to add to your point real quick, that was what Nero was known for, man. Them grandiose spectacles. He was known for putting a lot into the gladiatorial events. He was known for putting on these big shows. He was like a showman. And you could clearly see Trump fulfilling that same lot, man, and doing these things. And let alone we have that, which you just mentioned. And then you have next year is the 250th anniversary of America. So how much more is he going to push it then? And they're going to have that super, and that's to incite that super patriotic Edomite vibration within the people. And to say, fuck everybody else. It's all about Edomites. I have this precept, John 10:10. The thief cometh not before to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. So the thief, the devil, all right, this is the same playbook he's had from the beginning. Everything brothers have been describing, the ice, the lies, the deception, everything he's going into is what? Leading to death and destruction and mayhem. You see? But what do we come? We come in the spirit of Yahushua, and he came what? To give life and to give life more abundantly. So no matter what they're saying against us, you know, ultimately we're coming in the name of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua. All right. And Yahushua is a so-called black man from the tribe of Judah. And he represents peace. He represents comfort. All right. But that peace and comfort is for those that are going to repent of our people. So those of you out there that are out there doing this madness with these, going out there riding and thinking you're doing something, you need to repent, because you see this devil is not about to fucking play with you, man. He's about to come down with serious wrath and serious destruction, man. And whoever gets in his way, hey, we're getting in his way in the spirit, but in terms of a carnal sense, if you don't have the covering of the Lord and you try to go at it with this man, there's going to be a lot of death, man, coming up. A lot of death. The streets are about to run red with blood, man. And we see we're right at that time, man. And that's what Jacob's trouble is all about. And to the brother who mentioned earlier about Jacob's trouble, you could say we're coming into the beginning stages, but when Jacob's trouble is hitting, man, there's going to be no question. And it's going to be a lot worse than what you're seeing now. This is just the initial stages of setting up the pieces. All right, you got it.
Yep. Hey, God. I think I had one preset, right? Because as brother, I forgot. I think it might have been Haran was talking about, the propaganda and like the lies that Esau has been pushing out, and the reason why you got things happening now is because the truth, as it says in 2 Ezra 6, is being declared, right? And the truth is something that Esau can't win against, right? And that's why, as it says in Revelation, the 20th chapter, when he got loose from his prison, what did he go do? Deceive the nations. Because in order for him to have his power, it was founded in deception, right? From the beginning, the serpent from the beginning. And what he was banking on was that the truth would never be unveiled, right? But that is why when Yahushua did what he did, right, his last words before he died was said, "What? It is finished." Because at that point, he gave us access to the truth. He gave us access to the Rakah Kodash for us to be able to, which was going to be needed in these times, so that through the truth and through the belief in Yahushua, although the physical, the physical path would be hard, if you are on the what's the word I'm looking for, on the side of the Lord, for lack of a better term, right? If you have the truth and you understand it and you are fully convinced in it, there's really nothing that this devil could do. So here in Isaiah 47 verse 13, it says, Salakia 12, it says, "Stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth, if so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail," right? And that is the only thing that this devil could do, right? He could only just try to use his deception. But once the deception isn't working, he's going to resort back to his blessing, which is the sword, right? And that's where we at right now, and that's why you had, from, 2020, when all that was going on, you even had the think tankers, right? The World Economic Forum. They said what their biggest enemy is, what? Mis and disinformation, right? Which is ultimately the truth that was being put out, right? The knowledge of what they're doing and actually breaking it down and giving it, disseminating it to the masses of people. That was problematic for them. But they're at a point now where they can't try to, repackage their lies or repackage their deception, because whatever angle that they've tried to, the prophets have been getting at it, from America to London to, Australia, everywhere. You got a prophet just poking the holes and unveiling, right, the lifting up the skirt. So they can't actually use, the way that they're accustomed to using deception on the people. So now, they're coming with the whole physical aspect of it, which is also going to be a way to try to get people deceived, but it's going to be more so through, a lot of bloodshed, right? It's going to be through a lot of fear of actual death that a lot of people are going to be deceived. It's not going to be so much on some, just a regular way of deception that Esau has been using. So I just want to bring that out. But we all good? Looks like we all good. Okay, cool. All right, so with that, we're going to close it out, and Lord willing, this was edifying unto the elect. As we always say, right? Just to keep watching, right? Yahushua told us to watch and pray always, because these things that we're seeing, right? These are the beginning of sorrows, and the only way that you're going to escape it, right, is if you are, doing your due diligence right? And staying in the spirit and keeping the faith, you know, and staying in that sober mindset, right? So, you know, Lord willing, this is edifying unto the elects and to the elect Salaki. In closing, we want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Quadash. Until next time, Shalom to the elect.